Well, the virus has now killed more than 100 people in China, and new cases have been confirmed around the world.
So you don't want to frighten the American public.
France and South Korea have also got evacuation plans.
But you need to prepare for and assume
strongly warning Americans to avoid all non-essential travel to China.
That this is going to be a real serious problem.
France, Australia, Canada, the US, Singapore, Cambodia, Vietnam, the list goes on.
Health officials are investigating more than 100 possible cases in the US.
Germany, a man has contracted the virus.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
Japan, where a bus driver contracted the virus.
Coronavirus has killed more than 100 people there and infected more than 4,500.
We have to prepare for the worst, always, because if you don't and the worst happens.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Joe Biden abandoned Americans in Afghanistan, got 13 of our best soldiers killed, gave a kill list of Americans to the Taliban, and armed an Islamic terrorist nation with $83 billion in weapons, like this one. Biden should be impeached. Now I'm doing a gun giveaway of my own, but for Americans only. I want you to win this .50 caliber rifle that Democrats will ban if they keep the House next year. While Joe Biden broke America's pledge to never leave a man behind, Nancy Pelosi is sneaking the Green New Deal into the $3.5 trillion budget. And in 2022, I'm going to blow away the Democrat socialist agenda. Go to the website below and sign up to win my .50 caliber gun before Joe Biden bans it.
Okay, welcome to the War Room. Thursday evening, it's the 16th of September, the year of our Lord 2021, now with almost 90 million downloads of the podcast. Of course, we're live everywhere. We're also simulcast in Mandarin and Japanese because of GTV and G News. I want to thank them. We're also on Dish Channel 219 on cable, satellite, Rumble, Roku, Pluto. I want to thank everybody. Also up on a podcast with 90 million downloads and live nationwide on John Frederick's Radio Network. That video, we opened the morning show with it. It was so good, we actually invited the young starlet. Marjorie Taylor Greene joins in the house. Now, I got to make a correction. It was so powerful and so good. Posobic's sitting right there, and we both say, hey, that's one of those Arsenal things that have cost like $1 million to make, and hat tip to Benny Johnson and things like that. Now I hear that didn't take $1 million to make.
No, not at all. Actually, those were the great people that work on my campaign that made that video, and that's a hot gun, Steve. I got to tell you, people need to sign up for it, greengun.com. It is amazing. That gun, I made that shot 350 yards, hit the Prius, blew it to pieces. We took the battery out because, Chinese batteries, you don't want to, communist Chinese batteries, the lithium batteries that go in electric vehicles, we don't want to blow those to pieces because they would contaminate the earth. And no, but shot at 350 yards. It was 109 pounds of tannerite inside the Prius and blew it to pieces.
That's first take, one shot?
No, it took me a couple of shots.
Okay.
Yeah, 350 yards.
Yeah, no,
yeah.
That'd be sniper-like.
Yes, but the gun, it doesn't hurt your shoulder.
Had a little kick to it in the video.
It definitely has kick. It's an amazing gun, but it didn't hurt my shoulder at all, and I've shot a lot of shotguns.
There's so many heckles in who wrote this? So many heckles. thegreengun.org. There's so many heckles in this thing. How did you conceive it? Why do you want to give the gun away? And it's for you. It's to make a point about the impeachment.
Absolutely.
Right? And you were a lonely voice in the wilderness 2 months ago when you first came in here and said, hey, I'm going to impeach Joe Biden. People said, this is her crazy thing. She's trying to raise money, everything like that. We're in a different place today.
Yes.
And are you trying to take the game up by putting this video out? And I want everybody in the live chat, etc., be a force multiplier. Push this thing out. Your friends they'll play it multiple times. I mean, we had such tremendous feedback this morning. We really did.
It was great. No, I'm really grateful to the guys that work on my campaign, everyone that helped out. No, but here's the deal. The point of that video is there's several points. Number one, we live in the United States of America. We are the luckiest people on the planet to have the great Second Amendment. We can buy a 50 caliber Barrett 50 cal, and that's something that we can own as Americans. God bless America for that. And that is the exact type of gun that Joe Biden handed over to the Taliban, gave $83 billion. Oh,
Yep.
Tons of guns and military equipment. Gave it over to the Taliban, a terrorist nation that wants to kill Americans. That's what they would love to do with our own weapons. And that's what he did. He gave it to them, abandoned Americans, and caused 13 soldiers to get killed for nothing. And that's the point, a reminder, and that's why Joe Biden should be impeached. I have been saying it since January 20th. I filed the first articles of impeachment. I'm saying it now, and finally I'm starting to hear more of it inside my conference. It has to be done. The American people are demanding it. Republicans on the Hill need to catch up.
You had a bigger bill of indictment. I take it you're narrowing a little bit, particularly in Afghanistan and other issues. Do you think he gave aid and comfort to the enemy?
Absolutely, he gave aid and comfort to the enemy. Of course he did. He armed a terrorist nation. That is treason. It is treason, 100%, and everybody knows it. And any Democrat that would vote to defend him, well, we would have them defending treason. That's why I want it on record. I would like to see it on record.
So much of the, not just Trump movement, the Republican base is really saying, with that, and the poll numbers of Biden are collapsing, right? And there's two things. Number one, the illegitimacy. 42% of independents in the Economist poll think he's illegitimate. And that's a proxy for the American people, because the Democrats, Republicans are so, on each side of that issue. They're the proxy. So you're starting to get that question now about his legitimacy as we continue to hammer the 3 November. And we got now Pennsylvania's coming in. There's going to be some results here in these court cases in Georgia. We got obviously Arizona has announced today. September 24th at 1 p.m. Arizona time. They're going to have a hearing. Ronnie Rogers put it up on Twitter today, so we're going to have a lot more on that tomorrow about the official report. But also his policies. He's starting to collapse across with this invasion of the southern border, handling of the military, confronting China. The inflation's out of control. But are you seeing, it's been noticeably, except for a few lone voices, they're always the same voices, there's been a real lack of a course there with the senior leadership and other people in the Republican Party. Where do we stand with that? Besides Freedom Caucus and the guys, I know you're working it every day.
Well, the way I see it is there's no plan, okay? That is my problem from day one. There's no plan in place. The only plan that is happening right now in our conference is raise money and take back the House in 2022. Well, my issue with that is we need to have a plan in place when we take back the House. And we should be fighting and legislating right now in the minority exactly how we will do it in the majority, because we need to prove to our voters that we're worth voting for, that we're worth our salt, that we're able to defend their freedoms and defend America against this full-on attack from the communist Democrats. And that's what I want to see happen. I come from the private world. I come from the business sector, where we set goals, we put plans in place, and we accomplish them. And this is what people do.
Or you're held accountable.
Or we're held accountable. You know what? We get fired. If our company does not provide the service or the product that we are guaranteeing to our customers, we get fired. And that's what people watching the show at home, same thing for them. But that's not how it works in Washington, and that is my biggest issue. And it's broken. That's why I refuse to join their swampy ways, because the Republican and Democrat swampy ways have us right here to nearly $30 trillion in debt. Our border is wide open. We just gave aid and comfort to Afghanistan. Mark Milley, we found out that what did he do? Completely took over our government. This man is unelected. Everything is so bad. The list can go on and on and on. And this place is broken. It's a failure, a complete failure. So I want to change it. We've got to change it. We have to fix it. That's the only way forward. And the only way forward for us is America first.
You're saying, number one, the Republicans don't know how to be in opposition, because in opposition, you came on the show the day that Biden took office and said, hey, you've just been up here a week or two, says, I'm going to fight every one of these bills. I'm going to slow it down, and I'm going to make them read it. We're going to go through the details so the American people can know this.
Right.
And you were completely ostracized. They just want to voice vote them, get them out of there,
oh, yeah.
Let the Democrats win. Number one, do they know how to be in opposition, the Republican Party? And two, how can there be no plan to actually offer an alternative to what the Democrats propose?
I can't even answer that question, because it's mind-numbing to me. So the way that...
In other words, when you came to Congress, you thought, hey, they'll have this organized thing. It'll
Of
be so
course.
detailed. I'm just some country girl that was a ran a construction company. I don't know anything, but I'm sure they got a plan. You get up
For sure.
here,
I
no
mean,
no plan.
This is Washington, D.C. This is the federal government.
All
Surely
the-
when
all
I
the
get
smart
there...
folks.
Yeah, exactly. And then I find out that most of them are not qualified. I wouldn't hire them to work in my own company. That's the problem. And it's unfortunate to say that. It's very
This is one of the
disappointing.
biggest things. I think this is one of the most important things you can tell America. This is all kabuki theater up here. There's no real plan. There's no real details. They're not going through these things. They don't have alternatives. They don't sit there and go, look, we can do a much smarter budget that doesn't raise the deficit. We've got alternatives. It's not like that. It's
Right.
basically lobbyists pitching them to sponsor certain pieces of legislation that helps the lobbyists, the companies or the trade associations.
Oh, yeah, it's special project after special project, bill after bill, amendment after amendment, suspension bill after suspension bill. Before I started roll calling votes after I got kicked off a committee. That's the most important thing. I have been the most effective member of Congress this session for starting this process on roll calling votes. Completely changed the way we operated. Now every single vote, there's a recorded vote. That is what
Explain
we
to the
do.
audience what that means, what they did before and what you did. And
What
this is one of the
they
reasons
did-
they hate you in the Republican
This is
Party.
why they hate me. So when they kicked me off committees, I was like, thank God. So I went to figure out, how does Congress work? I learned the procedure. I sat on the floor, and the first time I saw a bill being debated back and forth, and then they called for the vote, and there was like 5 Democrats on one side, and then there's 5 Republicans over here, and they voted by voice, and I'm sitting there with my voting card in my hand, which goes into an electronic device, and that's how you record votes. But the Democrats said, yay, over here, and then the Republicans over here said, nay, and then the person, I don't know who it was because they had a mask on, and it wasn't Nancy Pelosi, sitting up there in the chair, she gavels it in and says the bill passes, and I'm going, what just happened? What? No, I didn't vote. There's 435 members of Congress. Nobody voted. How did this pass? And then a floor staffer told me, oh, ma'am, this is how we always pass bills. Most of the time it's by voice. I said, you have got to be kidding me. So that's when I started using floor procedure, and that was literally back in February of this year, when after I lost my committees, when there was Democrats and 11 traitor Republicans that voted with the Democrats. Isn't that a shame? But that's what happened, and I started roll calling votes. And within a month, it was like a month or 4 to 6 weeks time, the Freedom Caucus joined me, and they got on board, and we created a whole floor schedule where we all took turns roll calling votes, putting Congress on record. They had to walk down there and vote. Oh, they were so mad at me, Steve. It was unbelievable. Nancy Pelosi was mad because it was screwing up their schedule, and they couldn't get as many suspension bills through, and they couldn't ram them through as fast as possible. Then the Republicans were upset because it was inconvenient, and they actually had to walk down there and leave their lunches or fundraising calls or whatever it was. And it was the first
Actually
time.
do a job of a congressman, which is to vote.
Yeah, is to vote. Imagine that. But then I got chewed out, and I was told, and it wasn't by the Democrats, it was a Republican that told me, Marjorie, people do not want to be on record.
Amen.
And that is
Hold-
when I
hold it.
doubled down.
Was that a big revelation when they said that?
Oh, that was, let me tell you, that's when I said, oh, you challenged the wrong girl. And I told him, I said, there is no amount of words you can say to me right now that will stop me from doing this. As a matter of fact, I have committed to making sure that I will make all of you be on record, because they should be.
Isn't this why we need more people running small businesses, more just average citizens? You don't need to have a PhD from Harvard to be up here and do this job. You got to be a fighter and have common sense.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I haven't met anybody that I think is smart enough, and I don't really care about PhDs from Harvard very much. But no, we need people that aren't worried about the title, that it's not just another something on their shelf to make them look special and good, and they're not going to orate and say fancy speeches and get pats on the back and get congressman, congresswoman. No, none of that. These people have screwed up our country. They're screwing up our country. They're screwing up our children's future. I don't care if they're Republican or Democrat. It's all failing. We're nearly $30 trillion in debt, and the problems go on and on and on, and we're on the verge of socialism. As a matter of fact, we're already pretty much a socialist country in a lot of ways.
Okay, we saw socialism taken care of by the 50 cal right there in that opening spot. A magnificent. We're going to come back, short commercial break. Congressman Green, we're going to talk about the mess on the debt ceiling, the continuing resolution, the budget, all the trillions of dollars they want to spend.
Drafting our daughters in the NDAA.
And then also we're going to get to Millie, all that next in the War Room.
Great.
Okay, Joe Biden announced tonight is announcing a $1.9 trillion plan for the American family. That's on top of the $1.9 trillion for infrastructure, on top of the $1.9 trillion for the COVID relief bill, on top of the $5.2 trillion in federal spending for this year. What does it add up to? I don't know, $10 trillion. Maybe I'm rounding up by a couple of $100 billion. The point is that the Biden administration and Wall Street is on a collision course to destroy the U.S. dollar. Now, what are you going to do about it? One thing you're going to do is start thinking about alternative investments, starting with precious metals. What you need to do is talk to the people at Birch Gold today. They have an A-plus rating by the Better Business Bureau. Go to Birch Gold Day, and here's how you do it. Type in the following text, Bannon, B-A-N-N-O-N, to the following number, 484848. That is text, Bannon, B-A-N-N-O-N, to the following number, 484848. You get access to a 20-page brochure that walks through everything you need to know about investing in gold and precious metals. Okay, do it today. Go to Birch Gold. What we do know is that we're in uncharted territories with modern monetary theory. Let me give you old school theory, gold and silver. Go to Birch Gold today. Do it.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
They voted against that. And so she is having a critical time getting the necessary votes for the $3.5 trillion bill that's moving through the House. That is related to the debt limit fight. That is related to the appropriations fight. And we just got to be able to keep our eye on all of the different balls, because the Republicans are going to be looking for opportunities to flake out themselves. I already saw some of this in the news yesterday with different senators saying, hey, we'll just let the Democrats pass the debt limit by unanimous consent. That's crazy. You have leverage. McConnell is attempting to use the leverage because of the impact of this program and others across this country. And it's incumbent on the Democrats to figure out how they're going to get the necessary votes for their agenda. And Republicans need to use every leverage at their disposal, including the filibuster, to derail it.
Okay, we had Russ vote on this morning. This is the most of everything's going on in town. There's a lot of pro wrestling going on, and what Congressman Green says, they're always trying to do the misdirection play. Let's leave the spiritual warfare just off the side for a second, because we understand it's a spiritual war. We got that part, the larger context of this. But to get down into the nitty-gritty of, remember, because you hear so much time on earth, and you're using your human agency, right, to have divine providence work through you. So I'm going to get down to the gritty. This town's about two things, money and power. It's nothing but money and power, and they're inextricably linked. It's unique that we've got an opportunity, and you have, and remember, this audience is the deciding vote. That's why Mitch McConnell came out today and said, hey, we're not going to pass the debt ceiling. On the 30th of September at midnight, the federal government's budget ends, and they have to have money appropriate for next year, or nothing happens. The government shuts down. They shut it down because they're in charge. Then, by the grace of divine providence, on the 15th of October, the entire federal government is out of money, unless they have the ability to borrow. And that borrowing's from you. It's not from the Chinese and not from the Japanese. They can't sell any more bonds. The tax revenue's not enough. The gap here is so huge, and that's before the $1.25 trillion infrastructure bill. That's not infrastructure. That's before the $3.5 trillion new human infrastructure bill, right? That's before all of it. They need the debt ceiling. First of all, they got to get a bill, and they're going to do this continuing resolution. In the CR, we already saw that they leaked out the other day. Guess what? Surprise, surprise. In the fine print, 65,000 Afghan refugees, unvetted, in there. $6 billion now in continuing resolution. If the American people in the movement back the Marjorie Taylor Greens of the world, we can bring this all crashing down right now. We can have an adult conversation about where this country's headed, because with all the stuff you see running around on Fox or anything like that, if they pass the $1.25 trillion, if they pass the $3.5 trillion, if they get relief on the debt ceiling, if they pass these annual budgets that are $5.2 trillion now, the scale of that money radically transforms the United States of America. So, Congressman Green, this is why I want to have you over here in studio today. Please tell me, Please tell me, Kevin McCarthy and Scott, they're sitting there every day and they've got all kind of analysis and all kind of plans and all kind of strategies and tactics about how we're not going to have continued resolution. We're not going to kick the can down the road, but we're going to stop the out of control Wall Street corporations, Democrats from trying to transform this country with, I don't know, $6, $7, $8, $9, $10 trillion of real spending that they're going to try to get approved in the next couple of weeks. Please tell us that.
I haven't heard a plan yet, but I'll tell you what I have to say, Steve. Shut it down. Shut the government down. Who cares? These people, you can't trust them with your money. You cannot trust them with your money. They don't deserve your money. They don't deserve to be able to spend your money. 1.2 trillion in infrastructure. Socialism. No thank
You're
you.
a construction worker of that.
Yeah.
You're a construction for a CEO of that 1.25 trillion on what they say is the good infrastructure plan. That had 19 collaborators in the Senate support it.
Yeah, shame on them. Shame on
How
them.
much is that as real infrastructure in your mind?
Less than 500 billion, and then it has all these woke little attachments to it, like it has to be a woman-owned company, or it has to have so many LGBTQ people in the company. You have to meet all the criteria, the woke criteria that the Democrats have in there in order to get the contracts to do the infrastructure deals. This is all a lie, ladies and gentlemen. They don't deserve your money. Shut the government down. Guess what? The American people can get it done at home without the government. I say, put up a fight, shut it down. We shouldn't be spending this.
In the next 2 weeks, they're going to say, besides because remember, the 1.25 and the 3.5, that's just additional. That's additional. We have a $5.2 trillion budget every year, $3.5 trillion in transfer payments, about $1.5 trillion to $1.7 trillion in discretionary, with $1 trillion of that being the military budget. Really, it's $1 trillion, not $800 billion. But they're going to come up in a couple weeks, 10 days, and say, you know what? The government will shut down. So we need a continuing resolution to kick the can 2 months down the road. And the CR is going to have jammed in there Afghan refugees, amnesty, all that.
That's right.
So what are the Republicans, as you see them in the House, going to do? Because right now, there's tons of these Democrats in these swing districts. Understand, they start voting for this stuff, they're going to get ejected. The Rio Grande Valley, the 3 Hispanic gentlemen that are they're the ones with the biggest opposition right now, because they understand South Texas and working class Hispanics said, hey, guess what?
Yeah.
I don't see it. I see an open border. I see guys with disease coming across, invasion. They're driving my wages down. They're flooding the hospitals, they're flooding schools, and these are Hispanics, 85% counties. I want out.
Yeah, I'm sorry. If my company was having to go based on a loan every single year for a budget, then we would be out of business. We would be bankrupt. This business up here, the federal government, is failing, completely failing. It has your borders wide open. It has illegals flooding the border, and they're not down there giving everybody a shot coming through. No, they are not. But they're mandating vaccines for you at home, for you to go to work, for your kids to go to school, college campuses, sports, for you to go to a concert, for you to go to restaurants. You got to carry your little card around and prove that you've taken your government mandated COVID vaccine, while they're allowing over 200,000 illegals come across the border every single day. And then they're going to try to convince the American people, and they're going to put sob stories up on the news every single night of what's going to happen if we don't pass the budget and increase the debt ceiling. I'm sorry, I don't buy it anymore. I have no problem being a Republican with a spine and fighting it here in Congress and saying, no, we are not going to play ball, and Mitch McConnell needs to step up to the plate, and we need our conference to step up to the plate and show these communist Democrats we mean business, and we are not going to hold hands across the aisle with your communist agenda and your woke agenda and your socialism and your social spending and all of this garbage that is drowning America. It's time to stand up against it. I don't care if we're in the minority. It shouldn't matter. We're only down by a few votes, everybody. We should stand up. There are Democrats that are going to lose their seats, and we should force it to happen by fighting back. And that's what we need to do. Give our Republican voters a reason to vote for us in 2022.
Do you think the people, when you talk about the people back home and the deplorables, do you think they have your back on this one? They've heard enough nonsense, and now they're going to have, and here's what they try to do. They try to make it so complicated. It's not that complicated. On September 30th at midnight, if you don't have a new budget, guess what? There's no money for the government. And now, because the debt ceiling's there, they can't borrow anymore. So on October 15th, the government's out of money. They basically, credit cards tapped out. You know how this is in your life. You've tapped your credit card out. Okay? Here, because they can't sell the bonds, they can't raise taxes, the full printing money is actually on the people's shoulders.
That's right.
They're the full faith in credit, and they never tell people that.
No.
They say, "Oh, we're going to have the Treasury issue the bonds and the Federal Reserve." All this fancy mumbo jumbo. It's on your back.
That's right, it's on your back. Well, let me tell you about the Friends and Family program that happens when the government shuts down. The little contracts that are all in place with all these people in power, the Friends and Family deal. This is how it works. You know, members of Congress, senators who have friends, family members that have nonprofits and organizations that are set up that receive all these federal contracts. Well, guess who starts calling? They start calling, hey, you got to get this going. My contract's not going to go through.
I got to make
I'm not going
payroll.
to get my, that's right, I got to make payroll. I'm not going to get the check. And think about this. These people are going to be calling and pressuring people like me to get this past this budget. You got to pass the budget. I've donated to you. I've made sure that you've kept your seat. I have fought for you. I need this contract. I got to pay my employees. It's your tax dollars that is paying all these people. It's your tax dollars that is allowing this to go. And these are the people that are going to be calling, demanding for the budget to be passed and the cap to be raised.
On the debt ceiling, they're going to sit there and go, you've got Marjorie Taylor Greene from a construction company in North Georgia, doesn't know anything about Wall Street, anything about capital markets, anything. She's going to
they think I don't.
but she's going to jeopardize, and the people that back her, these people that breathe through their mouths, they're going to jeopardize the global capital markets, the U.S., the credit rating of the U.S., right? They're going to default in securities. Stock market's going to implode.
But it
the
doesn't.
bond market's going to implode.
Lies.
They're going to say she is going to bring down, and her
That's right.
people, the worst people on earth, these evangelical Christians that won't get vaccinated, the worst people on earth, as CNN tells us in MSNBC every night.
These are lies, though.
They're going to bring down the global capital markets. What say you?
Well, here's what I have to say. When there's a solid base to a company, there's nothing that can stop it. We have an empty base. We are sitting, we are teetering. We are like a sinking ship. We're the Titanic. We're sitting up on the top deck, ladies and gentlemen. The band is playing their music. The waiters are serving their food, and the people are dancing, and the ship is sinking. This is an economy on the verge of collapsing. We have over 50,000 trucks sitting in Kentucky waiting on microchips. Cars and trucks that can't be sold because they're waiting on China to send microchips. You've got appliances that can't be sold, can't be made because we're waiting on those rare earth mineral microchips. And then we've got a government that wants to force you onto electric vehicles. We're an economy about to collapse. We found out we should have learned the greatest lesson from COVID-19, that we cannot we cannot rely on China for our medical supply chain, and that's where most of our medicines are made. Life-saving medicines. We don't make them at home. They're made in China. We are an economy about to collapse. We have nurses, healthcare workers, doctors quitting their jobs because they've said, I've had COVID. I took care of the COVID patients. I don't want the vaccine.
I have natural immunity.
I have natural immunity.
The Israelis tell me it's 20 times more powerful than a vaccine.
Exactly. It is natural immunity. It's a good thing. It's immunity. They're quitting their jobs, and we are already in a shortage of healthcare workers and nurses. Truck drivers. We are in a terrible, over 100,000 truck drivers. We need them. That's how low we are. We need that. They're going to quit their job because they don't want to be forced to take a vaccine just to drive what they're carrying.
We're going to be talking about chips, and we're going to be talking about China, the CCP, and General Milley, his conversations on October 20th. That's the one to watch. Also, we're going to go to the border, and we're going to get a live report, and we're going to have Congressman Marjorie Taylor Greene respond to what's happening at the U.S. border, how it ties to the budget, and what she would do about it. All next in the War Room.
Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
MyPillow.com. Go there right now. Promo code War Room. Support the armor-piercing shell that is Mike Lindell, the great American manufacturing up there in the great state of Minnesota, and, of course, the War Room apparatus. Towels. I told you we get this sale back. 6-pack of towels, and these are the best towels ever made. Normally $109.99, now $39.99. This sale's not going to last forever. I told you that last time. People didn't believe me. So they had a month off. Now we got them back. He's got the inventory up there. Got to hit the bid. Okay? Plus you got the Giza sheets. You got the toppers. You got the Bible pillows for the kids. You got pillows. Go to our square. Just go to MyPillow.com, promo code War Room. You see all the sales. Okay, I got a bunch of other stuff I got to get through, but I've got Todd Bensman. We got so much jammed up. Marjorie Taylor Greene's on a roll. That analogy to the Titanic, that is poetic. You're getting pretty good at this. But you know, somebody said the other day, "Oh, why is she in committees?" I said, "Listen, you don't understand. AOC's changed the country, and I don't care if you hate AOC, if you don't like her dress or everything. That $3.5 trillion, just understand this, that $3.5 trillion is because every night she was doing the civics. She's not in some committee marking up bills. She's up there putting the iPad up there and doing a civics lessons while she's cooking her dinner. We said this years ago. I said I want more. I don't like her politics. I want more AOCs. I want more bartenders that know how to communicate to people. The $3.5 trillion is her deal.
That's right.
It's her deal. So people sit there and go, oh, Marjorie Taylor Greene should be in there marking up things. No, she's doing what she should do. She's had such an impact because she's like a rover back, right? That in there, boom, you see her, boom, boom, focus on the big things. Not that you guys shouldn't be in there and fighting, but listen, here's the reality. When you're in a minority right now, they don't care. They're just, the stuff's rolling. You may try to do a markup. You may get some stuff on the margins, but it's not the big stuff. AOC got the $3.5 trillion. That's the architectonics of that is 100% hers. And she caused why? She went around and sold it. She went online for the kids and did the civics lessons every night. She was out everywhere in the media. Boom. That's it. That's Marjorie Taylor Greene's the opposite, and that's one of the reasons you've had such a big impact. Let's go to Todd Bensman on the border because I've got to get Congressman Green in here. Todd, people's heads are exploding. Give us the August numbers of coming across the border. And then I got to talk to you about the Afghan situation and the CR, tucked in the CR, 65,000 Afghans. And by the way, we fully support people that work with us, fought with us, support us. But they got to be vetted, and they get as far as Qatar and Kuwait and Iraq. We got plenty of bases over there. That $1 trillion budget, there are plenty of bases over there. But you don't get the golden lottery ticket to Wisconsin. You don't get the golden lottery ticket to Texas. So Todd Bensman, get us up to date on the border.
So I'm talking to you from my hotel room in Del Rio, Texas, which is the latest flashpoint in the border crisis. 9,500 immigrants are sitting up under the bridge, the international bridge, just a few miles from the hotel. I just came back from there and saw it. Those are going to be mostly Haitians. There are thousands more coming behind them. So start paying attention to Del Rio, Texas. The August numbers.
Hang on. Whoa. We've been all over Del Rio, Texas because of you. You said, hey, you guys start looking at these cities. Remember, you went down. We've been down there for months with you and the others and went down and said Del Rio is going to be an explosion point. And I just want to make sure everybody in the audience understands this. There's 9,500 Haitians underneath a bridge waiting to come across.
Mostly Haitians. Let me give you some context here. Usually, we'll have 100, 200. The most I've ever heard of was 700 came in all at once. Within a 4-day period, a 5-day period, we went to 2,000 under that bridge, to 4,000 to 6,000 yesterday, to 9,500 today. It is absolutely exponentially exploding down there. I just took that picture about an hour ago. That's about as close as I could get. And there are many more coming behind them. And here's the issue with that. This is really unusual. We haven't had that kind of number under this bridge. There aren't enough people to guard them. That the turnaround.
I want to make sure we're all talking about something too. But by the way, the tragedy in Haiti is unbelievable. It's biblical, and there's things we can do and must do. But this is the point. A solution to this is not just to have people cross the bridge and come into Del Rio, Texas with the working class Hispanics and then go into the cities with the working class blacks. This is not a solution. This is just making the people at the lowest part of our scale right now bear the burden of it, and the taxpayers in Texas and the United States. This is what is not a solution. And having open borders is what attracts these poor folks to come across and get across into Central America any way they can, either by boat, airplane, or, I don't know, kayak, right? They're just I got to get out of Haiti, and I got to get here. And then, because I can't come through the legal way, because they're not going to take
Steve,
I'm not a political prisoner. Go ahead, sir. Yep.
Steve, I have to interject there. These Haitians that you're seeing are not coming from Haiti. They haven't lived in Haiti in years and years. They've been living comfortable, secure, economically prosperous lives in Chile for half a decade and Brazil. I have yet to meet a single Haitian who's actually coming from Haiti. So let me just get that out there. And they're going to be claiming TPS, temporary protective status here. They're probably rushing in right now to take advantage of the extension as though they were fleeing an earthquake or a political assassination in Port-au-Prince. They're not. These people are coming now because they heard the door was open and they're going to come through it. And they're going to claim asylum as though they're coming directly from Haiti. Everybody should know that. I have not met a single Haitian up and down the trail all the way to Panama who actually came from Haiti directly.
Okay, hang on a second. Congressman Green, thoughts, observations?
My thoughts are this, is if there is no emergency, there's no civil war, there is no crisis, like the real crisis is in Haiti where they've had earthquakes, and I'm still asking questions on how much money the Clinton Foundation gave to Haiti and helped those people out.
And how much they stole, flat out.
How much they stole, that's right, and none of it went to help the poor people in Haiti, and they need the help. But here's my question is this, if these people are not wealthy, but they're financially capable, clearly it cost them money to get from the countries they came from all the way up through Mexico. I mean, they had to pay for bus rides. They had to pay for a lot. They had to pay for food along the way. They had to pay for people to help them. And they're coming all the way up to the border. And I'm sure that cost at least probably anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 per person would be my guess and estimate. That's a lot of money. So why couldn't they stay in the countries they're staying in? Why are they coming up to our border? And then they're claiming some sort of privilege that they need to be let in America as if there's something terrible happening where they're from when it's not. And everyone knows it's not.
So, Todd, how are they being processed now? Is this why there's the backup? How are they being processed?
Right now, this group, I'm not sure how, but typically they will fingerprint them, take pictures, take their possessions and bag them, tag them, bring them to a Border Patrol processing station and give them their legal documents, usually a personal recognizance release in an order to a request. It's an honor system to show up at the Indiana office of ICE or wherever they go.
Whoa! Make sure our audience understands this. They give you a call-in number and under your own recognizance. They make a decision right there, and on an honor system, you got to check in.
And they're not showing up. Of course,
they're not showing up because they're rational people. They go, "Hey, I'm inside. No, I don't think I'm going to show up. Why show up? I lost the number. I was going to call, but I lost the number. Right? Todd, talk to us about August numbers on the border itself. Talk to us about what's happened as we continue to get to the $2 million person number this year.
The August numbers came in at just short of 209,000 for the month of August. That's a slight decline from the July number of 212,000. Not counting gotaways, that's another 50,000 for both of those months. Now, keep in mind that the August of 2020, there were about 50,000 that came in. The August of 2019, about 47,000. The August of 2018, somewhere in the low 50s. So if we're looking at 208,000 compared to all Augusts stretching back into history, we are in truly historic territory. It doesn't...
Hold it. You basically said, because they had 2017 in that, you could take the entire Trump administration, and it's less in August than what happened in the August of Biden's first year is more than all 4 years of the Trump administration, okay? And it's not just the COVID year we're counting. We're going back and counting 19, 18, and I just throw in 17 at the top of my head.
Moratorium. We need to stop this. We need to close our border. We need a moratorium.
Where are the Republicans on this? I just hear crickets.
No, everybody just complains. We
Well,
need
I
to
just-
take
Seriously,
real action. We need to close our border. These people are bringing in diseases. All we hear about is COVID-19. Our lives have been drastically changed over COVID-19, and here we're being flooded and invaded with people that we're not even keeping track of. We don't know where they're going.
There's an honor system.
I'm sure they're honorable. These are nice people.
Well, listen, they could be very honorable, but I'm sure, hey, the get out of jail card, I'm out of here,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah.
I lost the number. I wanted to call, but I lost the number.
No,
Talk to
I'm
us.
not calling.
How bad is the situation now on the border? Before we go to Afghanistan, how bad is the situation on the border right now, Todd Bensman?
I mean, just by the numbers, it's the worst that I think I've ever seen, really. I mean, we're looking at 1.5 million already. We have another month to go. If we're looking at a couple 100,000 a month, we're looking at 1.7 million for the fiscal year since about the election, just about before the election. Imagine, a city the size of, Austin, Texas, or I mean, that's a.
Oh my gosh.
tremendous number of people that were encountered. Not all of them got in.
But I want to hang on. I want to go back to the rule of thumb, because you said 50,000 getaways. And you're at CIS, which is the best of the best. I was always told that a rule of thumb is 1.1 times to maybe 3 times are the ones that actually get by, that are not captured, but it's somehow taken into custody. That number is really not 50,000, the getaways. That's the ones they record as the getaways. But the real getaway number is some multiple. Okay, did I lose him? Let's try to reboot him. So go ahead and reboot it. Thoughts, comments, observations?
Close the border. We can't. We're a dumpster fire. Here we are with 1.5 million people just flooding across, disappearing. We don't know where they go. We don't know what they do. We don't know how much drugs they bring in. We don't know how much human trafficking happening.
I know that, but the business interests want this. The reason it happens, labor. The Democrats want the votes, but the business interests want the cheap labor.
Sides of the aisle.
They want to suppress and they want to take those construction jobs, the agriculture jobs, the food processing jobs, and they want to flood the zone.
They're crushing our economy. They want $15 minimum wage, which is creating innovation where companies are coming up with ways to replace people, where you're going to order from a machine. Machines are replacing people because $15 minimum wage costs a company way more. Then we're flooding all these illegals in to do labor jobs where we have plenty of people here to do labor jobs, but we've been paying them to stay home. We're telling kids to go to college and they get in $100,000, $200,000 in college loan debt, which is ridiculous. When you want to know something, Steve, we need linemen. We have a great school in my district. We need linemen. These are heroes. They're first responders that get your power back on in a crisis and provide power and internet.
My father started off as a lineman at the phone company.
Good, he's a hero.
He's 100 years old tomorrow. Okay.
And we need truck drivers, and we need good people.
I love the truckers. Short commercial break. By the way, let's get Navarro's book up here. When we started the other day, the book was 270,000th on the Amazon list. It went to number 71, it went to number 50, it went to number 16. As we're talking right now, I think it's number 8. I need everybody to power into that book. This is the real story of Tony Fauci versus the Trump White House. Dr. Peter Navarro, in Trump time, my Journal of the Plague Year. Okay, and it is a page turner, and there's a revelation on every page. It's out on the anniversary of the big steal, November 3rd, but you can pre-order now on Amazon. This posse has ultimate muscle. Make this book number 1 on all Amazon. It's number 8 right now. We're going to be back in a moment. We're going to go back to the border and to Congressman MTG.
Monitors us, censors us, deplatforms us. Conservatives have been helpless to do anything about it until now. Join Getter, the social media platform that supports free speech and opposes cancel culture. On Getter, you can express your political beliefs without fear of Silicon Valley liberals coming after you. Getter is led by former Trump advisor and War Room co-host Jason Miller, who saw what big tech did to President Trump and decided to fight back. Getter is the fastest growing social media platform in history, with 2 million users, including prominent conservatives like Mike Pompeo, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Steve Bannon. Join Getter. It's in the App Store, the Google Play Store, and at Getter.com. Longer posts, longer videos, sharper and clearer pictures. And unlike the Silicon Valley oligarchs, Getter will never sell your data. Send a message today. Join Getter. It's time to cancel culture.
Okay, I'm here with one of the superstars at Getter, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and we'll go back to Del Rio. Tell us about, Todd Bensman from CIS, Center for Immigration Studies, the best of the best. Todd, tell us about this press conference. Were Joe Biden, were the representatives of the federal government there, the crisis at the border with, 9,500 Haitians at a bridge that want to come into the United States? There's a crisis of this great little town, Del Rio, Texas. Were any government officials from the federal government that have caused this, were they there at the press conference, Todd Bensman?
No, the press event that I attended was put on by the municipality, the city of Del Rio, with the Val Verde County Sheriff there. And the mayor of Del Rio spoke about a federal immigration problem right behind him, and so did the county sheriff. And there was no DHS presence there, nor was there any plan for there to be presence there or to have any kind of a similar press conference. And by the way, the New York Times was there at this thing, and the Washington Post is there. This 9,500 Haitians under the bridge at Del Rio is a big deal. it really is emblematic of something big that's happening on this part of the border that is going to be here for weeks and weeks. They're saying at the press conference that it's going to take 3 weeks before even the last ones that came in today will be able to process out. It's a dangerous situation because there are very few federal officers or even state police to guard that number of people. They're hungry, they're thirsty, they're uncomfortable, there aren't enough porta potties, and over the course of weeks, we've seen groups like this break through perimeter fences and just spill into the neighboring communities. That's what they're worried about here.
This is your country, ladies and gentlemen. This is what Joe Biden has done to humanity. We're going to get on tomorrow about Afghanistan. Just before you go, and you're going to be back tomorrow in Del Rio on the show, live in the morning. I just want to make sure everybody understands this. The math that works, the 200,000 that were basically apprehended or kind of turned themselves in, the rule of thumb is 1 to 1 to 2 to 1 that get away. It's not a fraction of, it's a multiple of. I just want to make sure I stated it correctly. Todd, and what's the current situation with that, with people that get around the Border Patrol and get around ICE and actually get into the country?
Yeah, normally they call that getaway. That's actually government nomenclature, that there are people that just get through and never get caught. Well, that's about 50,000 a month that they're counting. But with the border in this kind of chaotic disarray, my guess is that it's 5 times, 6 times, 7 times that. There's absolutely no telling how large the number is, but it is far more than 50,000. Any Border Patrol agent will tell you that. Any ICE person, anybody who knows anything about the border will tell you that right now the got-away numbers are far, far higher than the what's being reported.
Todd, what's your social media? We've got to bounce. How do people follow you?
You can follow all of my reporting down here at CIS.org, Center for Immigration Studies. We have a Twitter account. We have also just our website and LinkedIn, and also me is Bensman Todd on Twitter, and I just opened a Getter account, T Bensman at Getter. Help me get some followers on that thing.
Okay, fine. We're going to do that. Todd Bensman, thank you very much. Marjorie Taylor Greene, you're a member of Congress for the great state of Georgia. What is your thoughts, analysis of our government? Remember, this is representation of you in the audience, of the American government on the border. They are causing a humanitarian crisis of biblical proportions, ma'am.
Yeah, it's very sad, and it's the Democrats' fault. It's our entire government's fault. I'm thinking about there's 19,000 Border Patrol agents in our country, only 19,000. New York City has 35,000 police officers, ladies and gentlemen. 35,000 for New York City. Our entire country, northern, southern, both oceans, only 19,000. Our Border Patrol agents cannot do this. You're witnessing the drastic change, the landscape of America, and it shouldn't be anything about skin color or ethnicity or what language they speak. You are witnessing a complete change to our nation. It will affect our economy. It will affect your children's schools. It will affect your town where you live in. It'll affect where your tax dollars go. These are real people. They are going to come in our country. We've already got so many homeless people in our cities rotting away on meth and terrible drugs, but now we have a complete invasion happening every single day at our border, and our government is going to want you to pay for it. It needs to be stopped. Our border needs to be closed. There needs to be an immigration moratorium. Stop it now, and we need to get it under control.
Okay, we could go through all the problems. We don't have time. We'll get you back in. But people want to know how they have your back. So walk through how to get to you. What's your plan? The next 3 or 4 weeks are going to be some of the most intense in modern American politics as they try to jam through these spending bills and the debt ceiling. So how do people get to you, how they follow you, and how they support you?
You can support me at mtgforamerica.com, mtgforamerica.com. I do not take lobbyist money, PAC money. I do not take that. I survive on small dollar donations. That's how I protect myself from all the attacks, lawsuits, and the Democrats trying to take me out. Oh, and Republicans too. Primary season is coming, so you watch it happen. If you want to win my gun, a Barrett 50 cal, go to greengun.com and sign up. That gun is so hot. Oh, it is amazing. I want you to have it. It's incredible. And I thank you all for your support. Honestly, thank you.
Social media, how do people get to you?
Getter. I'm on Getter at Real Marjorie Taylor Greene. I am on Twitter, MT Greene, two E's on N. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Telegram. Make sure it's my verified account. People have created all kinds of crazy accounts, and no, I'm not giving away gold coins.
Okay. Peter Navarro's book, In Trump Time. Go to Amazon right now. We need this posse to pile into it. This book's going to be a patron. You're going to give multiple copies out for Christmas. It is going to explode over the battlefield here as Peter Navarro tells the truth. The Journal of the Plague Year from Peter Navarro, All Seasons Press. It's up on Amazon right now. Congressman Green, thank you so much. You're always, the audience always loves. You tell it like it is. You speak very common sense on these complex problems, and people can understand how we can get through this. We got to get through this by fighting. She's a fighter. And anybody that's opposed to her wants to moderate what she says. She ain't going to do it, okay? She's pure honey badger. Tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock, Steve Moore and the Debt Ceiling. We're going to go back to Del Rio, Texas. We've got an explosive show tomorrow. Eric Greitens, General Flynn, everybody here in the War Room.